Welcome to the Solar Energy Channel, where you'll get an honest, inside look at everything solar. I'm Warren.
And I'm Larry.
And in this video, we're going to talk about our top solar inverters. So Larry, we primarily use SolarEdge, SMA, and Enphase. What goes into the thought process in deciding on which inverters we're going to use and offer?
Yeah, so there's quite a few things that we look at when we're deciding which inverters to use. There's a lot of inverter manufacturers out there coming from all over the world, a lot of great products. But the things that we look at functionality. You know, how efficient is it? Is it going to work well with the equipment that we use? We look at flexibility. Does it work with batteries? Do they have a cellular internet option for monitoring? You know, what are some of those kinds of things that we look at? Compatibility. Is it compatible with the solar panels that we use? Is it compatible with service voltages that are in our area? Look at those things. We look at price, of course. Is it reasonably priced? Is it too expensive for the market? Is it too cheap? Too cheap of a product for what we want to use, for what we want to do? We look at the financial strength of the company. So has the company been around for a while? Are they making money? Are they making a profit? Are they going to stick around to honor their warranties for the next 10, 20 years? What does that look like on that side of things? What about availability? Are they available today? Have they been available in the past? That's a challenge right now, a real challenge that we need to think about. What about customer service? Are they going to answer the phone when we call? Are they going to answer our questions and our customers' questions going forward? And then, of course, reliability is a big one. Are they going to fail a couple weeks into it? We don't know these things, but we can look into it and talk to other companies that have used that product and make sure that it's going to last. And then, of course, their monitoring. Do they have a great monitoring solution that allows us to dig in if there's issues?
And then what about, Larry, it's a big buzzword or a concern right now, is the country of origin, particularly because of the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah, so that's a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly how that bill is going to shake out, what the requirements are going to be, but one of the things that we have to look at right now is, are these manufacturers going to move manufacturing back to the U.S. or for sure back to North America? So over the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, manufacturers that had been making product in the U.S., most of them have moved elsewhere in the world because of cost. And so now they're looking at moving production back to Mexico, back to Canada, back to the U.S. And we don't know exactly what's going to be required, but that's something that we're definitely going to watch out for.
And to be clear, that's for the additional 10% in the investment tax credit that you can get with the new Inflation Reduction Act, if in fact these meet the guidelines, which haven't come out yet, so we'll be keeping a close eye on those for when they do, and it'll most certainly be a part of our consideration when evaluating inverter manufacturers. So Larry, let's take a deeper dive into SMA inverters and go through all of those characteristics.
Yeah, so SMA is a great name brand inverter. It's been around for a long time. It's a string inverter technology that's been around for a long time, very consistent company. Consistent technology, conservative company. They don't make changes quickly, but they have a great product. Availability's been challenging with them. They've done really well up until the last maybe 6 months or so. We've been fortunate to secure some supply to hopefully get us through hopefully a short period of time where availability is going to be really challenging. As far as their monitoring platform, they have a good monitoring platform. We can drill down, we can see what's going on if we have issues. Customer support, maintenance issues. We had a number of significant issues in the last couple of years, and they've worked really hard with us to resolve them. So we've been happy with that. We still have some ongoing issues that we're working to resolve, but they worked with us pretty well. On the warranty side, standard is 10 years for their commercial inverter, 15 years for the residential inverter. Any of those inverters can be extended up to 20 years for an additional cost. So pretty reasonable warranty. On the cost side of things, string inverter technology is very economical. They have a very economical solution, which works well for a lot of our projects. Use cases that we look at to use their inverter or a string inverter, pretty much any ground mount is going to get a string inverter. And then some roof mounts, SMA does not have their own MLPE device for rapid shutdown. So we'd have to get a third-party device. So we don't use them on roof mounts as much as some of the other solutions, but it could be an option. And one thing I want to reiterate is just due to supply challenges and current economic challenges, availability and customer service has been challenging industry-wide.
What about country of origin for SMA? Are they being made here at all, or are there any plans for them to move manufacturing to North America?
Currently, they're not being made here. I think they still have some manufacturing in Germany. I don't know of any plans that they have to move manufacturing here to the U.S. or to North America, but I'm sure once the IRA, once there's more known about that bill, I'm sure there'll be some discussion around that.
So let's dive a little deeper into SolarEdge. What about SolarEdge? Why do we offer them?
Yeah, so they offer a optimizer plus string inverter solution. It's a newer technology. It's been around, become mainstream in the last, say, 5 to 10 years. It's a good technology, and it does allow you to have the module level power electronics on the roof.
Are they readily available?
Availability has been really challenging, really challenging with SolarEdge. We've been fortunate to secure some supply, which should get us through the coming, say, 3 to 4 months. But especially on the three-phase side, availability has been challenging and probably will continue to be so for the next year or so.
And what about their monitoring platform?
SolarEdge has a great monitoring platform. You know, they have the module level power electronics. You can drill down, you can see each module. So if you have issues, it works really well to drill down and see what's going on.
Customer support and maintenance?
Customer support and maintenance with SolarEdge has been super challenging, especially over the last couple of months. We've had a lot of challenges with them. We're working hard. They're working hard. I think it's something that we can work through, but it's been a really difficult time on the customer support and maintenance side for SolarEdge.
And what about the warranties?
SolarEdge has good warranties. 12 years is their standard, expandable up to 25 years for residential, up to 20 years for commercial. So it can be leading industry warranties if you purchase the additional package.
And cost-wise?
Cost, historically, SolarEdge has been very economical. They put their price up quite a bit in the last year or so, which is something that we're watching, but we still feel like they're a very economical solution for the space that they're in.
And when would you use SolarEdge and optimizers versus either string inverters or other inverters?
SolarEdge makes a lot of sense for roof mounts that require the module level rapid shutdown, which is basically every roof mount in our area. So they make a lot of sense on roof mounts. They can make sense on some ground mounts if there's a lot of shade, or if for some reason the customer needs more flexibility, like they want to add a battery in the future or something like that. SolarEdge can make sense in the ground.
So let's talk about that, flexibility and compatibility.
Yeah, so SolarEdge is a very flexible product. They integrate with batteries. They have a cellular solution if you don't have access to Wi-Fi on site. They have an EV charger option. That's one of the things that we really like about SolarEdge is they have a lot of flexibility.
And then finally, what about supply?
Supply has been very challenging
Yeah.
for SolarEdge and will continue to be so. And that's just an industry-wide challenge. I don't want to pick on SolarEdge specifically, but it's been very challenging for them and will continue to be over the near term.
Great. And then I know I said finally, but lastly, what about country of origin? Are they being made here or are there plans to make them here?
So one of the things that SolarEdge has done is they're moving some manufacturing to Mexico, actually a large amount of manufacturing. One of the questions is going to be, does that count towards the IRA requirement to get that additional 10% tax credit? There's been some discussion, does it have to be made in the US? Can it be made in North America? So that may or may not be helpful. I think SolarEdge is also serious long-term about having some US manufacturing as well.
So again, another issue that we'll monitor as those guidelines come out. All right, so finally, Larry, let's talk about Enphase. Basically, what is an Enphase inverter?
So Enphase has a microinverter solution. They're probably the most popular microinverter solution out there. Basically what it means is that each panel has its own inverter under the panel itself.
What about availability?
Availability's been pretty good as of late. They've really ramped up their production. They're probably about in the same boat as everybody else. They're seeing some supply challenges, but they're in a pretty good spot with product availability right now.
Okay, great. And monitoring platform?
Great monitoring platform. Kind of like SolarEdge, you've got module level power electronics. You can see each panel. You can drill down if there's issues and see what's going on.
Maintenance and customer service?
Maintenance and customer service, we've had a long history with them. We had a lot of challenges 6, 8, 10 years ago with their product. It seems like they've resolved that and now turned a corner. We haven't had nearly as many issues as of late.
Yeah, I actually have Enphase on my roof, on my system. It's my inverter of choice. We had some issues with ours on the onset shortly after the installation. A few of my inverters failed, but after they were replaced, I've had no issues.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction that they're going.
Yeah, and they have great warranties, don't they?
They do. Industry leading 25-year warranty comes standard.
What about cost?
Cost is where there's a challenge.
Yeah.
So Enphase is the highest cost solution out there. Doesn't mean it's not valuable, but it's definitely, you're going to pay more with Enphase.
Typically, where do you use Enphase inverters, or where don't you use them?
Enphase inverters can make sense on residential roof mounts. Ground mounts is a little bit more challenging because one of the challenges with ground mounts is you have to watch your voltage drop from your farthest inverter on the farthest ground mount all the way back to the interconnection point, which means you've got to use larger wire, and that's higher cost. So ground mounts, larger systems, three-phase systems, Enphase is not going to be a solution for those projects.
And then what about supply?
So supply has been not too bad. And again, I want to just reiterate, industry-wide, supply has been challenging,
Yeah.
and Enphase has the same challenges as all the other inverter manufacturers with that.
And then lastly, what about country of origin?
I believe Enphase is also looking at Mexico to do some of their manufacturing, and I'm sure that at some point the U.S. is going to be in play if that becomes a big thing with this new IRA bill.
All right, Larry, so those were the three main solar inverters that we use. There's quite a few of other inverters on the market, or many of them. Let's talk a little about some of the most popular ones. Maybe Tigo. What do you know about Tigo inverters?
Yeah, so Tigo, Fronius, Solectria, APS, Chint, Generac, those are some of the more popular brands that we've looked at. We've not used them recently. We've used some Fronius and Solectria in the past, but we have not used any of these brands recently. But they're brands that we're keeping an eye on specifically. Now, you asked about Tigo, so I'll jump right into that. It's an option that we're actually seriously looking at right now. And one of the reasons is they have supply. And so we're actively looking at their product. It's a single phase inverter. It's a hybrid inverter. It's reasonably priced. Hybrid means that it can work with batteries and solar. So that's really cool. Plus, Tigo is a familiar brand that's been in solar for some time in the optimizer space. And now they're also starting to make an inverter.
What about Fronius?
Fronius is a brand that we used maybe 10 years ago. We used a lot of Fronius inverters. Had a lot of issues with it. I believe that they've turned a corner. They have a unique inverter that can work in some special cases like smaller three-phase systems, some unique situations like that. So it's a brand that we're watching out for.
Solectria, we've used those in the past as
Solectria,
well.
yep, we've used Solectria in the past. It's a product that we've used. I think they have some availability now, so that's also a product we're keeping our eye on.
APS?
APS is a three-phase microinverter. There's not a lot of three-phase microinverters out there. They're a big company that's making the three-phase microinverter. Personally, I like the DC optimizer solution for larger projects because you're going to have gains in wire costs with the higher voltage DC. Right. But APS is a company that I think has some traction.
Now Chint?
Chint is a big three-phase inverter brand that can make a lot of sense on ground mounts. So another product that we're looking at.
We see those frequently on utility or O&M work that we do on large-scale projects. Yeah.
Right.
And then finally, Generac.
Generac, it's a single phase. Again, it's a hybrid inverter. Works with solar, works with batteries. They've been in the news lately because they've had an issue with some of their products. My read on that is they're doing a really good job of trying to make that issue right, but it's still going to be a challenge for them. I think it's a good product. They're working on some neat load control solutions and generator integration solutions. I think it's a neat product. We haven't done anything with them, but it's a product that we'll keep our eye on.
So in summary, we primarily use SMA, SolarEdge, and Enphase inverters. We use the SMA for the ground mount or where space is not an issue, and we use either SolarEdge or Enphase on roof mount applications. There are a ton of other manufacturers out there. We're keeping an eye on them. All manufacturers are having supply chain issues right now, so it's not uncommon for any of them to have a challenge with supply. Most of them are doing their best to work through it. If you want to learn more and take a deeper dive into some other solar inverters or look at some comparisons that we have, there'll be links in the description below.